Right, give the universe more credit. A lot of times in the consciousness movement, we approach the universe as this sterile kind of thing. This thing that is operating by rules but is lifeless. Even though we evolve, we literally build. DNA literally takes everything around it, these raw materials, that stardust, Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about it. Mm-hmm. That's what we made out of. So, in the scientific community, there's just this phenomenon called emergence, which is not real. And emergence is the idea that you can take a bunch of little parts and build them up into something bigger, and that bigger thing will be smarter than the little parts. And, we might use an example of like a computer as an example like that. If I built some artificially intelligent machine from all these little parts, or, the best example that they give is the cells in our body. Like, all the cells in our body are not as smart as this giant organism, and somehow this giant organism called the human being achieved an intelligence that the single cell did not. Well, that's just not true. Reality differentiates from the other way down, from the highest concepts down. So in other words, the intelligence that designed DNA, the intelligence that is manipulating chemistry, the intelligence that can take, a nebula and produce stars and then produce humans and then produce computers. That energetic flow, that flow is what's actually in control. And that flow is the intelligence that particulates down into the single cell. But the essence of its intelligence is found there in that single cell. The reason I bring this up is that is the kind of intelligence that the universe is working with. So if it can figure out how to go from burning ball of gas to self-aware human being, it can figure out your life. It's already in your game. Like the synchronicities, the people in your life, nothing in your life is just there. Now, when we charge the universe with this level of intelligence, the question becomes, well, why isn't the universe helping me to win my game? Or am I supposed to be praying to the universe? The answer to all those questions is no. The universe is not here to help you. You are the universe helping yourself. See the difference there. See the transfer we just made. Because now we're understanding that the universe itself is not only intelligence, but I am an extension of that intelligence. So the thoughts that I'm having around my life and the decisions that I'm making are going in two directions. I'm conceiving and creating based on the world around me, and the world around me is conceiving and creating based on that. And when those energetic flows reach a certain momentum, when they reach a certain impetus, the intelligence of the universe becomes that much more apparent. So you get these stories where people start talking about manifestation, where what's their thoughts or whatever their affirmation is or whatever they need to do to get into that flow, and then everything in their life just fell into place. Well, why is that? It's literally directing a flow. It's literally directing a flow. It's like directing a flow of current. If you can direct a flow of current and get a certain momentum going, you can just ride that wave. And if you build a life, you can ride that life. If you build a relationship, you can flow with that relationship. If you build a career, you can flow with that career. And the universe will be aware of that intelligence. It will be aware of what that entity is. Because your life isn't just you, it's the influence that you have. We have these things called influencers. Well, what is an influencer? An influencer is a person whose life is influencing others. So now those things that they're influencing have now become an extension of who they are. So it makes it easier for them to promote things or to promote ideas or to spearhead movements or whatever they're using their powers for. That is not an emergent phenomenon. That's baked into the game we call life. Like life does that. Life does that in the animal kingdom. Life is doing that in plant life. Life is doing that on the microscopic levels. The macroscopic levels is doing it in the plants. Like the reason everything seems like it has a certain type of rhyme and reason to it is because it does. And I think it's time for humanity to just settle into that fact. Like the universe is aware. It's not the Judeo-Christian God. It's not the Islamic God. It's none of these stories that we've been told. But it's still more than just something that we're going to study under a microscope or something that we're going to philosophize about. it's an actual entity that we are an extension of. And the more we come into that awareness, now we're getting into the true understanding of self. Understanding that when you interact with the literal day-to-day consequential changes in your reality, you are interacting with an intelligence that is integral to who you are.
Wow, yes. The universe is always accompanying you as a 0 point in consciousness. The universe is always providing you with opportunities to create the life you want to create and create the desires you want to have and manifest the things that you want to manifest in your environment, in your life, in your day-to-day experiences, in your mind. The game, when we tend to call the universe the game to sort of highlight that interactive component of it. The game is like you said, very self-aware. It is alive. It is conscious. It is aware of you. It is aware of what you're doing, what you want, and it's doing things to help bring about that. It's doing
because you're directing it to.
Yes. You're directing that action.
So how do you direct it? This is a good question. How do I direct the universe? Well, because everything we're talking about here is real, your first reference should always be reality. Now, hopefully our relative realities have a certain synchronicity to them, but let's try to ultimately agree on a few things. That when you physically do something, that in and of itself is a form of affecting the universe. So when I pick this book up here, I manifested that. And this goes even further beyond just this moment. Whatever is consequential to my picking up this book is also a manifestation. So you seeing the book in the video right now, that reality that you're having, I manifested that as well. We're manifesting that. So manifestation is not this thing that you go into a corner and you think about really hard and then somehow you look around and the universe does it. Manifestation is an action. It's something that you do. Now, you can do things beyond your physicality though. Okay, so again, take the example of you watching this video. If something in this video causes you to take a certain action, that's a part of the stream of this manifestation. So me as a content creator, I have a responsibility to that. I can't just say things and influence people in a certain way and try to divorce myself from it as if it's not consequential. It is. And that's now we're really getting into what the true manifestation power is, realizing your influence over the flow of your life. And when you come into the awareness that you are actually directing your life, you actually become the director of this film. You become the director of its experience, and you can now manifest on the long term. So 2020 hit, and we decided that we were going to launch the Majestic Increaser of My Strength, and we've got a whole lot of things planned for it. But one of the things that we wanted to have as part of our initiation into the world was a copy of the Laws of Consciousness for people to be able to read. We had started writing the Laws of Consciousness years ago. I started working on it solo by myself years ago. And then Charles and I, we started working on it together. As part of our explorations of consciousness, and we said, okay, we need this book. It was really at that time a concept of having the whole book, because the original parts of the Laws of Consciousness was not this voluminous. And this is not a very long book, but there's a lot of information packed in here. So we initiated this process of manifesting the book that we knew would fully encapsulate the things that we had learned about consciousness. And I remember there was one night we were just up typing and we had designed the book cover on the screen, and we're just looking at it. We're like, one day, man, we're going to take the book, we're going to just slap it on the cover. Like, that's going to happen. Right. I'm holding that book in my hand right now. So I went from having a thought to sharing a thought to us creating a reality that now you can also share into. That is also manifestation. So the more you know about the reality that you're trying to manifest into, the easier it's going to look. The pianist that sits down and plays the masterpiece, it looks easy, but he's still manifesting with the same level of effort, that the any other student of art puts in, or science, or literature, or whatever it is that you're the area that you want to manifest in. I think the thing is, a lot of times we want to manifest in areas where we don't think we have any control, so we try to resort to magic. Like doing things where I don't have to actually affect change, but somehow the change that I'm looking for will happen. So a good example of this is, in religious circle, praying. Praying can be very good for your personal morale and your own sort of sense of inner peace and getting your mind into it. But if you just pray and then think that somehow that is what's going to move the universe, no. It never has. It's never worked like that. Why? Because that action has to be accompanied with some other action.
Right. It has to be an agreement.
Right. You have to signify to the universe that you are selecting that reality. Not that you want some power somewhere else to select that reality for you. And once you notice that small difference, manifestation becomes, oh man, I'm doing this. Because the other thing is, manifestation is not about the motives behind. The universe doesn't care if your motives are good or bad. We talk about, the last year and the whole presidential cycle. You look at a character like Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a masterful manifester. Mm-hmm. Like, he's a masterclass in manifestation. Like, he manifested the presidency. You have to give him credit for the things he's manifesting. And how did he do it? He's in complete alignment with himself. Nothing told Trump that he could not win. Like, nothing said that to him, and he believed it even when other people didn't. So it really is it's not a matter of whether people are in agreement with you. It's a matter of you being in agreement with yourself and willing to take the first steps to make that thing happen. Now, once you start typing the book out on the page, so to speak, once you start directing the film and the other constituents of your experience, that transfer of consciousness happen, and you give the universe something to run with, then it'll snowball. Mm-hmm. Because now Trump is a phenomenon beyond anything of his own design. He's actually, he's property of a movement now. Like, long after Trump is gone, people will still be studying Trump because of the impact that he had. And that's unfortunate, but I think if we learn from that example, we won't repeat that in history, and we'll manifest, leaders that are actually reflective of genuine values that are actually reflective of the reality that we want to see and that we want to share as human beings. But we have to understand too that if we don't use our powers of manifestation, if we don't take it upon ourselves to believe that we can, in fact, direct the flow of reality, somebody else is going to do it. You're going to end up with a Trump, because the Aquarians out there, and when I say the Aquarians, those that are of the age of Aquarius, those who are more conscious minded, for the longest time we were silent. But something about 2020, something about Black Lives Matter and the pandemic and the economy, mm-hmm. and the liberals and like everybody, LGBT, everybody said, you know what, this society is not working. Like, this is an abject failure. Like, this is an embarrassment. Let's do something about it. And we manifested an amazing season finale for 2020 with the election of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And that's not enough. That's not enough. That was really more of a symbolic thing. That was the solidarity amongst the people of this planet. Because that election just wasn't about America too. You know that, right? Like, the world was hanging on that. The world's question is, where are we going? Are we going back to Jimbo days? Are we where are we going? Like, and so it was up to black people. It was up to black people to say, okay, in the midst of this heated, racially tensed, polarized world, we still have to be the ones to manifest manifest. And we manifested in a lot of ways that year.
Mhm.
But that election was the greatest thing. Black people gave Joe Biden that election. Period.
They did.
So you always, Joe,
Yeah,
we looking for our reparations, bro.
Yes.
And we not gonna forget.
Mhm. Mhm.
But anyway, so manifestation is about being in alignment with yourself. That's it. And when you come into alignment with who you are, what your energy is, and you start making choices, the game will follow that flow of energy. And that's really the secret to what it is. It looks magical and fanciful because you see people who seemingly come from nothing and end up with everything, but they don't tell you that long, thorough line of customized steps where they just kind of listened to the universe and the universe guided them that way. But there were always choices that they made. And that's the thing that you want to really get into when you're understanding this concept. The choices that you make is what manifests your reality.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.